Welcome to my channel. The story is about to begin.
In fact, Qin Jilan is even more decisive than Li Yi had imagined. While he was still painstakingly urging his screenwriters to draft proposals, directives from the president's office had already been sent out to every department in the company. No one was exempt, not even the security guards. A new gaming guild called Xingye Gaming has been established, fully funded by the company. Each employee will receive a set of Xinqi brain computing devices free of charge for personal use. Starting today, overtime work after 7 p.m. is strictly prohibited, and all employees must log on promptly at 10 p.m., unifying our gaming schedule. From now on, playing Xinqi will become part of the company's official job duties. The company will provide daily gaming allowances to employees and introduce a guild contribution bonus to reward players who achieve outstanding performance. As soon as the announcement was made, everyone went into a frenzy. Even Li Yi himself was taken aback. He'd only suggested that the company lend money to employees to buy brain computing devices and allow them to play games, yet Miss Qin took it a step further, providing each employee with a free device, plus additional allowances and bonuses. Such a grand gesture? No wonder it's you, Miss Qin. After a long day filled with hectic activity, though honestly, I can't even remember what I was busy with, only vividly recalling the long legs of various beauties and the tantalizing allure of working amid snowy mountains and deep ocean trenches. Li Yi bid farewell to those clingy little sprites, headed out for dinner at a restaurant, and then strolled leisurely home, feeling a touch of regret in his heart. It's one thing that I couldn't manage to invite the icy beauty, the boss, to dinner today, but even the sexy secretary Lu didn't fall for my advances. What a disastrous start to this endeavor. At this point, someone's bound to ask, with so many gorgeous women vying for your attention at the company, why not just pick one or even several and have dinner together? To which Li Yi replies, no way. They're all different. It's precisely the ones we can't have that are the most enticing and stir up the wildest desires. What he's after is the thrill of conquering the summit of the snow-capped mountain, not merely satisfying some casual craving for chow pai. He's not short of women. What he really lacks is the kind of woman he can't have. But these dark little quirks instantly fade away once he gets home, because soon enough, it's time for the wonderful game. Divine Revelation, activate. Blackrock Keep, the blacksmith's forge. A flash of white light and Li Yi is online. The moment he looks up, he sees the old blacksmith quietly hammering away at his anvil, showing absolutely no surprise at his arrival. Without wasting any time, Li Yi walks right up to him and asks, Old B. Teacher, do you have an empty furnace? I'd like to craft some weapons myself. Frode lifts his head and gives him a puzzled look. Didn't I already give you a sword that a magic swordsman can use? Why would you want to make your own? Li Yi doesn't reveal his true thoughts. Instead, he just smiles and says, I've already learned the art of blacksmithing, so I'm thinking of using this skill to earn a bit more money. Hearing this, Frode couldn't help but get angry. The kid had mastered blacksmithing in just 1 hour. Really, it was quite a shock to him. Now, having just barely started out, he was already planning to snatch business away from him? Still, thinking about the fact that the other guy was an outsider from another world and enjoyed all sorts of preferential treatment, Frode decided not to hold it against him too much. So he casually said, We've got a private room specially reserved for outsiders like you. The rent is 50 copper per day. Pay up and go ahead and use it. We also have stock of ordinary materials here, though you'll have to pay for those too. Your skill level is still low, so take it easy. If you start wasting resources recklessly, that little bit of silver you've got won't last long. Li Yi nodded, tossed out a quick reply, then turned around and walked off. Got it. Well, I'm off then. Frode quickly called out, Wait. Pay the rent first. But Li Yi didn't even bother to look back as he replied, Ha. As if I'd have to pay rent just for using a furnace at home. Isn't this a slap in the face to your master? And what's with the materials, master? You've got to at least charge me cost price. You can't just give them to me for free. It's not easy for you to make any money yourself, you know. The old man was utterly baffled, and his rough, weathered face quickly flushed red. Hold on a minute, since when did this place become yours? And you're insisting on charging me even for the material costs? Do you have any sense of shame? Stepping into the small room behind the blacksmith's shop, Li Yi smoothly and expertly began the forging process. If you want to talk about how realistic this game is, his life skills don't work like those in other online games, where you just prepare the materials, click start, and wait for the progress bar to finish before it's all done. No way, this game actually requires you to follow the steps meticulously. If you really want to forge a weapon with your own hands, you'll have to start from scratch, heating up the furnace and smelting the iron. You've heard of the knife forging competition, right? The process there is nothing compared to this. It's way more complicated, because steel has to be refined by oneself, and iron has to be forged by hand. Without modern equipment, there's simply no room for laziness. Moreover, since this is a supernatural world, crafting equipment with special attributes involves even more steps that fall squarely within the realm of the supernatural. For instance, during the crafting process, you need to integrate magical materials, carefully balance the blade's performance with the properties of those magical materials, and ensure that each weapon possesses at least a minimum level of energy permeability. This is the single most crucial fundamental requirement for weapons in this world, no exceptions. Only weapons that possess this attribute can truly be considered supernatural weapons. All others are mere scrap. No one would take them even if given away for free. After all, ordinary low-level practitioners can only properly unleash their supernatural combat techniques when wielding weapons capable of channeling supernatural energy. Take, for example, Lie's elemental sword techniques. If he were to use a piece of junk, he might not even be able to conjure up an elemental sword aura. And as soon as you start enchanting the blade, the weapon itself would begin losing durability rapidly. Is that really how you'd want to play around? Even if it's barely possible to wield, it'll significantly diminish your combat effectiveness. Is that really feasible? Obviously not. In short, forging a decent supernatural weapon in the game, even just a white iron grade weapon, is far more challenging than doing so in the real world. However, Lie does have an advantage in this regard. While learning the art of blacksmithing, thanks to the effect of his innate talent, he also picked up another life skill: enchantment magic. Enchantment magic, a beginner-level life skill that allows you to permanently imbue any supernatural item you craft with your own elemental attributes and magical effects by consuming your own supernatural energy. The specific enchantment effects depend on your supernatural energy level and your overall supernatural abilities. It's a rather vague description of the skill. Its actual effects can only be fully understood through practical application. But there's one thing Lie is pretty sure he can accomplish. That's right, by using the affix magic, you can directly imbue the weapons you forge with extraordinary attributes, allowing them to naturally possess a certain degree of energy conductivity without needing to add magical materials. This dramatically reduces both the difficulty and cost of successful forging. That's also the main reason he hasn't been rushing to go slay monsters yet. Once his equipment and weapons are properly crafted, killing monsters will become far more efficient afterward. He lit the furnace and heated it up to an extremely high temperature. In one swift motion, Lie smelted over 100 kilograms of pig iron, then began the actual forging process. Since there's no need to add magical materials or worry about conflicts and balances between different materials, all he has to do is hammer out the rough blanks, practically guaranteeing that there's virtually no chance of failure. Soon enough, the first blade blank intended for experimentation was quenched and shaped into its final form. Lie activated the affix magic, continuously infusing the blade blank with the gentlest of his 4 elemental energies, the holy light. Then, he moved on to the next stage of refinement and finishing touches. Since this was just an experiment and there was no need to make it overly sophisticated, this short knife is quite rudimentary. No attention has been paid to handle feel or weight balance. It's molded in one piece with a solid spine, and it doesn't even have a guard. It could rightly be called a finger killer. Yet despite its appalling appearance, this weapon has somehow managed to meet the standards of an extraordinary artifact, even surprising its creator. Simple enchanted short knife, unnamed, grade, white iron equipment requirement, none durability, 100 attributes, sharpness 1, low energy conductivity, physical attack plus 15, magical attack plus 19 enchantment effect. When used, input any form of extraordinary energy, except dark energy, and the blade will glow with holy light, inflicting 5% additional light element damage with each attack. The more energy you input, the higher the additional light element damage will be, up to a maximum of 15%. Notes: a ridiculously crude short knife. Hard to imagine anyone would bother spending a fortune enchanting such junk. Maybe he's just crazy? No, it's you who's crazy. Li Yi cursed under his breath, yet felt surprisingly elated. His hunch had been spot on. Enchantment could directly bypass the most failure-prone step in weapon crafting, the magical material melting and forging process. In other words, as a novice blacksmith, he could theoretically achieve a 100% success rate in forging extraordinary weapons. Just relying on this godlike ability, even if he only crafted the lowest-grade white iron weapons every day, he'd still rake in gold by the bucketful. The more Li Yi thought about it, the more excited he became, and soon he was already hooked, diving headfirst into deeper research, continuing to experiment with crafting even more powerful and perfectly tailored enchanted weapons. Let me think. Light element enchantments do make things glow, right? Then I'll fire a shot right as soon as the gun is drawn. It'll unleash holy light, blinding the enemy's eyes and leaving them unable to dodge. By then, we can just call it the bright silver dragon spear. As a modern-day individual, Li Yi has countless ingenious ideas and unique insights into the functions of weapons. After discovering the 100% successful superb forging technique, his inspiration surged forth uncontrollably, never to be contained again. In the process, Li Yi also uncovered the true power of enchantment magic. It can permanently imbue a portion of his own supernatural abilities onto enchanted weapons, thereby producing even more extraordinary enchantment effects. For example, if you enchant a weapon with the skill Holy Light Healing, activating it by channeling supernatural energy will trigger a healing effect, slowly restoring your own injuries. Or take Moonblazing Slash enchanted onto a weapon, and when you use it, channeling supernatural energy will unleash a small but powerful blade of flame. Another example, by incorporating part of the spatial power from the skilled Dimensional Rift into a weapon, you can make it automatically return to your hand after being thrown for a certain period of time, while also dealing damage that ignores all defenses. And so on. The possibilities are endless, allowing for countless creative combinations. Paired with Li Yi's boundless imagination, these enchantments can give rise to all sorts of outlandish tactical maneuvers. The only somewhat unfortunate thing is that white iron-grade weapons seem to be able to withstand only one attribute and one supernatural ability enchantment. Whenever you try to add a second enchantment, it'll fail no matter what. Sometimes the enchantment simply fails. At worst, the conflicting energies can trigger a violent explosion, completely destroying the weapon. As a result, Li Yi's plan to imbue a single weapon with multiple enchantments and create a brand new, powerful artifact has come to nothing. Even so, Li Yi still exhausted every last bit of steel he had to craft several weapons equipped with exceptionally potent enchantments. Even the crimson-striped cross sword that Frode had awarded him underwent some modifications. After being enchanted, it reached an entirely new level of strength. Now, he's armed to the teeth, but in doing so, an entire day has already slipped away. After dark, the environment outside the city would become even more dangerous. But Li Yi was fearless. After carefully stowing his meticulously crafted weapons into his storage space, Li Yi slung his longsword over his shoulder and stepped out of the blacksmith's shop door, under the astonished gaze of Freud. "Wait a minute, where are you headed?" Li Yi casually tilted his head and gave a sly smile. "Just taking a stroll." Freud narrowed his eyes and warned with a meaningful tone, "It's already dark. You'd better not leave the city. The undead creatures outside Blackstone Fortress love to roam around at night." Li Yi made an OK sign with his hand, said nothing, and strode off confidently. As he walked, he nibbled on some dried provisions to stave off hunger. Along the way, Li Yi reached the city gate, and there he saw that Blackstone Fortress's walls were truly magnificent, built entirely from dark-colored stones. The walls, towering 20 meters high, were thick and solid, exuding an aura of impenetrable strength. The passage atop the city wall was wide and spacious, patrolled and garrisoned by fully armed soldiers, most of whom were archers. Li Yi couldn't help but activate the system's camera function, snapping a photo of the majestic city wall that looked like a fortress straight out of the apocalypse. He uploaded the photo to his cloud storage, determined to preserve this moment as a lasting memory. Nowadays, players of Divine Revelation are wildly enthusiastic about capturing the game's fantastical landscapes and sharing them online, hoping to attract more people to join the game, and Li Yi wanted to jump on the bandwagon too. After finishing his photos, he continued on his way out of the city. After explaining his intention to leave to the guards standing at the gate, the young soldier gave him a puzzled look before opening a small side door for him. "Remember, we won't open the gate for you if you don't make it back before midnight, so be sure to time your return carefully," the soldier warned kindly. Li Yi thanked him and then darted through the opening in a flash. The guard shook his head in disbelief. This is the first time I've ever seen someone so eager to court death. For some unknown reason, the wilderness around Blackrock Keep was awash in shades of gray and black. Even the sky was perpetually shrouded in thick, heavy clouds. During the day, the light felt dim and oppressive, and at night, the darkness was so profound that not a single sliver of moonlight or starlight could be seen. In such an environment, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that you couldn't see your own hand 5 inches in front of your face. The cold wind howled fiercely all around, its eerie, ghostly wails mingling with the unfamiliar roars and cries of unknown beasts, altogether creating an atmosphere that was both chilling and unnerving. Even a perfectly sane person would feel terrified just trying to keep walking, let alone actively seeking out hunts and battles. To be honest, Li Yi hadn't planned on venturing deep into the wilderness late at night anyway. Doing so would have been nothing short of courting death. Instead, he'd simply chosen a spot not far from the city wall, took a brief moment to familiarize himself with the terrain, and then drew the long sword from his back. As soon as he thought it, the blazing demonic energy within his body merged into the sword's blade, instantly igniting a fierce flame along the blade's edge and banishing the surrounding darkness in an instant. With a broad sweep of his hand, the priest activated his rare combat skill, Divine Light Blessing. A radiant beam of holy light descended upon him, subtly forming a luminous aura that enveloped him entirely, transforming Li Yi into a tiny figure bathed in light, even brighter than the flaming blade in his hand. This wasn't just a high-level shield with light-based properties. During the skill's duration, it also continuously restored his stamina and lightly healed any wounds he'd sustained, a truly powerful skill that combined both defense and healing capabilities. But the protection didn't end there. Li Yi raised his hand once more and flung out a dazzling, pale golden orb of light into the air, where it hovered above his head, seemingly perched atop his very own little sun. This was another rare combat skill he'd learned from his holy maiden master, Dawn's Arrow Storm. This little sun contains a highly concentrated and exceptionally active divine light energy, allowing you to unleash arrows of holy light at will whenever needed. At level 1, you can fire off 100 luminous arrows. With the blessing of the Order's sacred body, all skill levels automatically increase by 1, effectively making it equivalent to level 2, meaning a single orb of light can fire as many as 200 luminous arrows, an astonishing feat. Finally, Li Yi makes a cross-shaped gesture over his chest and silently murmurs, "The word bestows blessings." Instantly, a chorus of sacred chants rings out, and a positive buff that lasts for an hour appears on him. All attributes are boosted by +1, injury recovery speed increases by 5%, and magic recovery speed also rises by 5%. But this is still not the end. Now that the light-based skills are set up, what about the dark-based ones? Activating Shadow Defense, a dark power infuses the shadows beneath his feet, bringing them to life and turning them into vigilant guardians that can automatically react at any moment to deflect attacks coming from any direction. Dark Abyss Spear activated. A thick, viscous pool of dark sludge plunges onto the ground, transforming into a writhing black swamp that trails behind you. You can also will it to take the form of a dark spear at any moment, ready to strike enemies within your line of sight. After setting up this elaborate trap, Li Yi suddenly felt just a bit safer. Everything's in place, now we just wait for the monsters to come charging right into our trap. In such a pitch-black environment, the sudden appearance of such a bright light source was bound to attract the attention of monsters very soon. As Li Yi had anticipated, soon enough, faint movements began to stir in the darkness, seemingly from several creatures slowly approaching, and not just one. Holding his breath, Li Yi subtly moved his empty hand and pulled out another short spear from his storage space, gripping it firmly in his palm. He gently coiled his energy, ready to hurl it at a moment's notice. The short spear shimmered faintly with a starry blue glow, as if imbued with some mysterious power that caused the surrounding space to subtly ripple and undulate. Just as he made this move, the creatures in the darkness seemed to be triggered, suddenly accelerating and charging toward Li Yi. From the shadows at the edge of light, several black-skinned, four-legged monsters burst in simultaneously, pouncing forward with a speed that ordinary people could hardly hope to react to. On their snout-like heads were irregularly scattered red eyeballs, their bodies were covered in grayish-black scales, yet their limbs bore a faint resemblance to human legs. They sported over a dozen long fleshy tentacles and bulging growths all over their bodies, giving them an ugly and ferocious appearance. Like a pack of wolves, they worked together in coordinated hunts, launching a fierce assault from all directions and at multiple angles at once, a truly relentless onslaught. Yet Li Yi remained utterly calm. As he threw his short spear with all his might, the golden little sun above his head began splitting into golden holy light arrows, showering down in a torrential rain of projectiles. Celestial maidens scatter flowers, and rain and dew alike shower down immediately. The first few monsters charging forward struck bad luck, being riddled with endless beams of holy light and turned into a veritable honeycomb of wounds. It seemed that the power of holy light was especially effective against these creatures, effortlessly neutralizing their onslaught. Yet despite this crushing blow, their vitality proved remarkably tenacious. Even under such intense suppression, they still hadn't died completely and continued to struggle frantically, trying desperately to lunge forward and bite Li Yi. And in the darkness, even more of these same monsters kept pouring in, charging ahead undeterred by the relentless hail of holy arrows. Seeing this, Li Yi wasn't alarmed at all. He merely reached out and snapped his fingers, and the short spear he'd just thrown instantly reappeared in his hand. With a casual flick of his wrist, he hurled it once again, while simultaneously drawing his flame-crossed sword and stepping boldly into battle. The long sword, glowing with crimson flames, whirled swiftly through the air, slicing elegantly and magnificently around the monsters. In the span of just a few breaths, he unleashed 18 smooth, silky blades of flame, sending waves of scorching heat rippling outward. Every monster caught in the blast was instantly set ablaze, their bodies engulfed in roaring infernos. Elemental sword technique, flame leaf sword dance, ugh. The ignited monsters nearby let out piercing wails, looking utterly racked with agony. Yet their vitality was astonishingly tenacious. Despite such a short span of time, they wouldn't die. On the contrary, their pain only seemed to fuel their ferocity. Some of them either lunged wildly at Li Yi, while others had their disordered red eyes on top of their heads suddenly burst open, unleashing streams of blood-red beams of light. Li Yi couldn't dodge fast enough. He could only swing his sword, hacking away at the monsters that charged toward him, completely ignoring the chaotic beams of light hurtling his way. The crimson beams kept landing on him, but his holy light shield and the shadowy curtain rising beneath his feet deflected them all, leaving him unharmed. Still, they did chip away quite a bit of his armor value. Meanwhile, the light arrow launcher atop his head kept firing continuously, growing smaller and smaller with each shot. And from the shadow swamp beneath his feet, black mud spears kept thrusting upward, repeatedly piercing through the monsters' bodies while simultaneously shrinking as they were consumed. Still, no problem. Li Yi would quickly pick up a new skill whenever he had a spare moment, keeping his dual-layer protection and continuous attack status intact at all times. Thanks to his innate physical talent, which granted him a percentage-based mana recovery rate, he could ensure that he'd always maintain this fully unleashed combat style. In other words, Li Yi could completely withstand the onslaught of these ferocious monsters, fighting without taking a single scratch while ensuring both effective damage output and his own safety. Under these circumstances, no matter how resilient these monsters were, they'd all end up falling dead beneath Li Yi's blade. As the slain monsters died, faint, dim light particles floated out from their bodies and entered Li Yi's body, triggering constant prompts in his ears. Killed Tier 1 monster, Eye-Eating Beast LV1 experience plus 10, you've unlocked the corresponding monster encyclopedia, please check it yourself. Killed Tier 1 monster, Eye-Eating Beast LV2 experience plus 20, extra experience bonus for killing a monster 1 level higher, plus 20. Killed Tier 1 monster, Eye-Eating Beast LV1 experience plus 10. Killing a Tier 1 monster, the Eye-Eating Beast LV3, earns you 50 experience points, plus an extra 100 experience points for killing a monster of a higher tier. You're giving me only this measly amount of experience for killing a single monster? Are you feeding cats or something? As he heard the kill notification buzzing in his ears, Li Yi couldn't help but mutter softly to himself. The reason was simple, he just felt that the difficulty of slaying these monsters didn't match up with the rewards they offered. He'd already checked the experience bar earlier. Going from level 0 to LV1 required 1000 experience points, yet killing a single LV1 monster only rewarded him with 10 points. In other words, newbie players with little combat prowess would have to take down 100 of these agile, incredibly resilient creatures that could withstand multiple hits, fought fiercely without fear of death, and even wielded powerful ranged energy attacks, before they could level up. What the hell kind of sick joke is this? Does the planner really think everyone's as hopeless as he is? Or maybe players' innate talents are actually pretty powerful after all, so maybe the situation isn't as bad as he thinks? But judging from the talent effects that netizens have been sharing online, they don't seem all that impressive either. Unable to figure it out, Li Yi once again flung the short spear he'd just retrieved, pinning the last monster attempting to flee to the ground. Then, a beam of light shot down from above, and a spear of black mud erupted beneath his feet, instantly turning the creature into a honeycomb of holes. Killed a Tier 1 monster, Eating Beast LV3. Plus 50 experience, plus an extra plus 100 experience for killing a monster of a higher level. Ding! You've leveled up! A burst of white light flared up, and Li Yi immediately felt a warm sensation spread through his body. A surge of power flooded his entire being, dramatically enhancing his overall physical and mental capabilities. Simply put, my muscles have become stronger, my brain thinks faster, my eyes see more clearly and farther, and my body feels lighter. I clicked on the panel and saw a noticeable boost in my base stats. Strength, 2.4, Stamina, 2.5, Intelligence, 2.5, Agility, 2.2, Spirit, 2.4. Strength went up by 1.4, Stamina by 1.5, Intelligence by 1.5, Agility by 1.2, and Spirit by 1.4. Altogether, my stats improved by a total of 7 points, equivalent to having 1 extra stat point compared to other single-class players. Just 1 extra point? It doesn't really feel like dual classing gives much of an edge after all. Though he said that, he still couldn't help but revel in the exhilarating rush of the sudden surge in power, feeling even better than the moment when he first unlocked it. By the way, there's one more thing I've got to mention: after the upgrade, all 4 of his magical attributes have doubled in strength. Plus, with the additional boost from his increased spirit attribute, each of the 4 energy slots has now been raised from 1000 to 3400, 1000 by 2 plus 1000 by 1.4. That's a whopping 3.4-fold increase, quite an impressive leap indeed. Li Yi took a moment to feel the abundant magic coursing through his body, then glanced down at the piles of monster corpses scattered across the ground. He rubbed his hands together and began casting the gathering technique. With so little experience awarded, the drop rates can't possibly be this low anymore. Gathering successful. You've obtained 21 Magic Eye Blood Beads, 1 First Grade Abyssal Mana Core, 1 First Grade Magic Bone, 10 First Grade Magic Blood, 4 First Grade Bone Claws, and 1 First Grade Animal Skin. Gathering successful. You've obtained 18 Magic Eye Blood Beads, 1 First Grade Magic Bone, 14 First Grade Magic Blood, 4 First Grade Bone Claws, and 1 First Grade Animal Skin. Gathering successful. You've obtained 25 Magic Eye Blood Beads, 1 First Grade Magic Bone, 11 First Grade Magic Blood, 4 First Grade Bone Claws, and 1 First Grade Animal Skin. Gathering successful. You've obtained 21 Magic Eye Blood Beads, 1 First Grade Abyssal Mana Core, 1 First Grade Magic Bone, 10 First Grade Magic Blood, 4 First Grade Bone Claws, and 1 First Grade Animal Skin. The rewards were indeed plentiful, but they were all just raw materials. Not a single piece of finished equipment or item was among them. The only material that can be directly exchanged for money is the non-essential Abyssal Magic Core. He checked, it can be traded for 1 silver coin at NPCs, and organizations such as the Magic Association, the Church, the Mercenary Guild, and the Sword Court are all willing to accept it. Over 31st level monsters yielded a total of just 8 Abyssal Magic Cores. After collecting his loot, Li Yi prepared to continue leveling up. His gaze fell upon the darkness around him, where faint glimmers seemed to flicker. He'd already noticed earlier that these monsters weren't completely devoid of intelligence, at least when they realized that despite their concerted attack, they couldn't harm Li Yi in the slightest. They actually abandoned their senseless suicidal charges and retreated decisively. Even those monsters that had already launched an attack began to entertain thoughts of fleeing, completely lacking any so-called aggression-driven targeting mechanism. Thus, his originally planned fixed-point monster spawning strategy had already failed. He couldn't possibly keep farming monsters in one spot until dawn. He'd have to switch locations and farm in different spots instead, maintaining a brilliantly radiant glow. Li Yi quickly shifted his position until a new monster launched an attack on him. From the darkness came an eerie creaking sound, as if bones were grinding against each other, growing louder and closer with each passing moment. Li Yi immediately halted his steps and stood ready for battle. The 3 sources of light, the holy radiance on his body, the glowing orb above his head, and the fiery blade in his hand, converged, allowing him to clearly make out the monster's form in an instant. It was a group of skeletal monsters, their bodies shriveled and covered in a layer of dark flesh. They exhaled a faint black mist, wore tattered armor, and wielded various bone weapons, knives, swords, axes, and hammers. Yet despite their grotesque appearance, they moved with remarkable agility. There they were. The classic skeleton soldiers, monsters that no online game novel could afford to overlook. Frode had already warned him that undead creatures often roamed outside Blackstone Fortress, so Li Yi wasn't surprised at all. Still, he simply raised his sword and charged forward to take on these quintessential low-level foes. The next moment, a flaming sword was blocked by a skeleton warrior wielding a blade. Immediately afterward, several other skeletons seized the opportunity, launching their attacks in perfect unison, each striking with cunning angles, sending spears, axes, bone swords, and bone hammers flying out at once, all hitting his shield almost simultaneously. The ferocious, swift, and precise strikes were so clean and ruthless that they even executed movements like anti-joint maneuvers that human bodies simply couldn't perform, leaving everyone utterly amazed. Bang! The mighty holy light shield shattered on the spot, and Li Yi's expression instantly turned grim. Alright then, these guys might not be just some run-of-the-mill foes after all.